Lucy had brought up this really great point that according to science, we are considered white sometimes. Latinas and people who are Hispanic are considered white, and yet I will say that, you know, when if I'm half Polish, if someone were to ask me, what are you? And I say Polish, I mean, that's never, right? People are like, okay, yes, but and what? Like there's Latin in there. So we're seen as not white, and yet science says we are white. And so like, let's even start there, because that's mind boggling. Because is it a race? Is it an ethnicity? How do you check it off on a census? What is that? So let's start there.
Well, in terms of what I know and what I've learned about, the racial, the ethnicity portion of it, right? There's only a couple. And then you go down beyond that, and at the end of the day, all of our DNA is exactly the same, right? And so then it's like we're all human. But the thing is that specifically here in the United States, but really everywhere, but it's more so a problem for Latinos here in the United States because of the way in which the census wants to, have everyone categorized. And, for good purpose, right? Like there's lots of research and there's all kinds of good reason to have a census that dials down into race, gender, ethnicity, socioeconomic status, et cetera. So I'm certainly not saying it's a bad thing. That being said, because Latino in and of itself is a construct, right? We start to talk about the social construct of what it means to be Latino. And then who defines that construct? Who makes it, right? Latino at the end of the day can be the spectrum of races, right? There's Black Latinos, there's Afro Latinos, which I've only recently learned. And again, I speak from not having a Black identity experience, but I've learned from my Black friends, like for example, that you can be half Black, half Latino, and that's very different identity correlation to than being Afro-Latino, which generally refers to Caribbean roots. So, I think that the conversation oftentimes then turns into how can we actually talk about this without first kind of having a knee-jerk reaction, especially when white presenting Latinos don't identify as white. Because I certainly understand the trepidation and also the frustration, because we do have so much anti-Blackness within the Latino community, which is a thing, right? Like we have so much anti-Blackness, we have anti-Indigenous roots. I mean, there's a lot of frankly, mixing that occurred within the colonization process of the indigenous people of Latin America, that coming out at the other end in terms of trying to define who you are is often such a difficult conversation to have, that when people then don't identify that they have white privilege, when they don't accept that they have white privilege, that in and of itself is a problem. That comes from anti-Blackness. So, I think that we're not obviously going to have any answers to your question, Ariel, or even, we're almost like skimming the surface of this conversation. But I think it's just something that's so critically important to one define as far as, okay, what is race? But then also get beyond that, because I am considered white according to, the science behind it. But I in no way ever identify as white. And I certainly don't present as white, I would say most of the time. Maybe on occasion I can pass as white, and I certainly benefit from some lighter color privilege, right? And I fully accept that. But me personally speaking, never in a million years will I ever say that I am white. I'm just not. And even though I know in, what the scholarly papers say that I am, even though I know that and I acknowledge it, I will not check a white box ever. And I never have on the census. I always end up checking other, or, Hispanic, because of course they still categorize us as Hispanic. And then, moving on from there.